Happy New Year! And that is the last time we're going to mention that, because I'm pretty sure this is probably the millionth time you heard it. So, but this is the first episode of Trend Chat, so we just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, with New Year coming up, everybody makes all sorts of resolutions to lose weight and to read more, etc., etc. But, you know, if your resolution is to maybe find that special someone or something like that, especially you ladies who are all heartbroken over Tim Tebow and Chris Pratt recently being and getting engaged, well, this is the episode for you, because we're going to go through 129 ways to find a husband with Ellie Bufkin with the Federalist. So, if you're still out there looking and want some tips, you're going to have a good time listening to this episode of Trend Chat. So, welcome, and we hope you enjoy.
From the highways of America, here's the podcast where we talk politics, a little entertainment, some culture, and this and that, from the road to your ears. This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
And welcome to another episode of Trend Chat. I am your host, Brian Bledsoe, and if you want to connect with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat. It's all the same name, Trend Chat 24/7. Wow, I did that after close to a month gone, and I still got it. All right. It's the little things, the little wins in life, right? So, don't want to hold up too much time, because we definitely want to get to our interview with Ellie Bufkin. And I know a lot of you ladies may be listening right now, like, come on, let's get to these 129 ways. I want to find this husband. So I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get there. But first, given that it has been over a month, and, I actually had like a list of other little things it wasn't even going to be long, but because I want to get to this interview, and also we're going to be back on Thursday as well. We've been gone for so long. We think you deserve to get another episode this week. That's right. We're going to, we do this for you, and especially this episode. So, I'm not even going to go into the other. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about calling it a segment called "So What" or "Who Cares" or something like that. I don't know. I want to make a segment out of it, because there's a lot of things where I see the headlines or I see something that's trending, I guess, and I'm just like, I don't care. And a lot of times I don't even bring it up on here, but now I'm just going to bring it up in this section, in this particular segment, I guess I'm going to call it, and just where I've just like, this is a "So What" segment where I don't care about this, but so I'm not even going to do that. I thought I was going to do that today, but I'll wait till Thursday. But the overarching story over everything, especially for the past couple of weeks, has been the government shutdown. And as of today, this is January the 15th, as of now, this is the longest shutdown in U.S. history, which I am not surprised. And because I thought it would be sooner in the Trump administration. But the only reason why it hasn't happened sooner is because Republicans was in control of the House and the Senate. I feel like if the Democrats was in control, we would have had, I don't know how many shutdowns, and been going on for how many months and weeks, who knows. But I don't have too much on it, because as of right now, it's the government still shut down. Who knows, by the time you listen to this, it might be over. I don't know. But I would say one thing, and I don't want this to sound unsympathetic, I guess, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna sound that way. But especially how I'm going to say this, but spare me the stories, really. The media out there, the stories about oh, such and such has been working in this department of the government, and they're not getting they're not at work, and talking about, and obviously because the government shut down, that they're not getting paid. That is sad. That's sad. I mean, no one wants that, and I'm sympathetic towards people, especially who are living paycheck to paycheck, and then all of a sudden this hits. And so I'm sympathetic toward that. But in the big scheme of it all, in the big grand picture of it all, if you're someone like myself who is a strong supporter of limited government or decentralization of the government, I don't think your job should exist in the first place. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm sad about the story, but honestly, I don't think you should even have that job anyway. Sorry. I mean, but like I said, if you're someone who is for limited government, if, let's say, for instance, you talk about utopia, you talk about fantasizing right now, but think about if this actually happened, where you actually had someone in there that would really like cut down on all these departments and, like I said, decentralize all these federal bureaucracies, and where they would be on the state level or whatever, or municipal level, whatever. If that really happened, I mean really happened, not just giving lip service to it and then don't do nothing about it. If that really happened, what you're seeing right now is nothing compared to what will happen then, because we're not talking about just missing a couple of weeks of work. The reality will be that there will be thousands of federal workers out of a job entirely. That will be the reality there. So that's the mindset I have on these stories when I'm hearing about all of this. But I'm very pessimistic as far as anything like that is happening anyway. So another reason why I'm not really so torn up about when I hear all this is that, for one, I know they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid eventually, and the government is going to just continue to slowly but surely grow, even after this whole shutdown. Whether President Trump gets his wall or not, it's just going to, government just going to continue to, it's slow and steady pace. Well, I guess you call it slow, but it's not so slow really. But yeah, so, but that's all I got on that. I'm not gonna get too much into it, because one thing I hope Republicans don't cave on this. I really don't. I really don't hope they don't cave on it, because it's important. It's very important. It's been important for decades now, so it's not nothing new. So anyway, that's it with that. And so I got a little bit of news after this. But before that, I'm going to play Hear a Word from my friends with the Founding Project. And then I got a little announcement. And then we'll get into our 129 ways to find a husband.
Hello, Trend Chat listeners. If you like the Founding Project's Civics Education video series, Civics for All Ages, and our educational meme series, we think you will love our new website. Join us at thefoundingproject.com and be a part of the civics movement. The Founding Project is a 501c3 education nonprofit. Please join us today.
Hey, all right. So, like I said, let's get to our interview with Ellie Bufkin. So, I know a lot of you are just eagerly anticipating to hear. Now, like I said, we're not going to go through all 129 ways. We will tell you where you can go and read the list and all that. So, but before we get into that, I just want to say something really quick. I am so stoked and happy to announce that we are an affiliate, a partner with two companies, and I'll get more into it probably on Thursday. But one is ODG Apparel, and they make great Christian apparel, great Christian shirts, hats, and I mean art and all sorts. And so we're really happy to have them, and so we're gonna talk more about that. Also, 1776united.com. We are part of the militia, so we're on that as well. So, but we're gonna get more than that on Thursday's episode. So, without further ado, here's our interview with Ellie. And we're very pleased to have Ellie Bufkin with us. She is the senior contributor at the Federalist. And we brought her on because we came across a podcast that we listen to frequently, and one in particular that was talking about a article that came out in the 50s, and it was McCall's magazine, 129 Ways to Find a Husband, and that was one of the most entertaining podcasts to us when we listened to it, and we just had to get someone that was a part of the podcast to talk a little bit more on it. If you want to hear the full podcast from the Federalist, just you can search the Federalist in all podcast outlets. Matter of fact, let me just ask you, Ellie, where can they find the podcast if they want to hear that?
You can really find it on any podcatcher. I think the easiest is usually iTunes. So you can just go to iTunes Federalist Radio Hour, and then the title, which is 129 Ways to Find a Husband.
All right. So how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So now, I mentioned before we got started that I literally could do maybe 2 or 3 episodes on this because this is 129. So, but we're gonna try, really gonna try. Cause you know what? This is a question I just thought about now. Given that it's 129 and during the podcast is only an hour, did y'all have to condense everything that y'all talked about, or did y'all really get it all in on an hour?
Well, we were just disciplined. We have 3 segments on the podcast, so we figured out what we kind of wanted to target in on for each segment. But yeah, there was definitely more that could have been covered.
Oh yeah. Just to get into it, this list is, even though it's 129, it's broken down into 4 parts. So it's kind of like in the beginning, it's just where to find him, and then after that, it's how to let him know you're there, and then how to look good to him, and how to land him. Now,
and then it goes completely off the rails.
Yeah, actually, I was going to wait for this to kind of go in order, but actually, I want to start with the last group, because the last group of it is titled Wild Ideas, Anything Goes.
Right.
Now, before we get into the other ones earlier in the list, I feel like this one right here, to me, this is the one for after you have tried all, 110 at this point, and you're just desperate. Like this.
Well, yes. And I think more to the point, it was 2 women who wrote this together, and I think this was probably the end of their ability to come up with ideas, and they weren't sure where to categorize these, so they put them in a kind of crazy category at the end. Having come up with sort of long listicles, myself in my past writing career, I understand getting to that point where you're just write down anything because we need to get to 129 and I want to go home.
Yeah,
I think that's the only explanation for a lot of these, because no one would do most of them. I mean, one of the suggestions is to stow away on a battleship. Even in 1958, that's crackers.
Now, see, in that list, I mean, I guess the most tame after 110 is 111. Go to Yale.
Right.
I mean, that's a wild idea back then. Not, don't go to Harvard, don't go to Princeton, don't go to Columbia, go to Yale.
This is the second mention of Yale in the article, so I'm assuming that they're very impressed with the men who are being produced from Yale at the time in 1958.
They must be, must be Ivy League.
At no point does it suggest going to another college. At one point, it does suggest potentially getting a job at a college and meeting men that way, but the only suggestion for higher education is just to go to Yale as a wild idea.
And then after that, it just kind of goes further down. And
Yeah.
so I guess like even the next one, 112. I guess to kind of update it, it's so 112 is to get a hunting license. I guess nowadays you'll be like, I guess get a concealed carry license or something like that. So
yeah, I guess the idea of going hunting. I mean, you would meet someone in the woods, or you would just impress them by having a hunting license. I wasn't really sure what they were getting at with that.
I mean, it's like I said, the last ones, it's just those are gold for me. Kind of like bribe a Ferris wheel operator to get stuck on top of a Ferris wheel. I mean, why? Like,
yeah. What we pointed out on the podcast is no Ferris wheel moves fast enough that you'd want to get stuck there for any longer. I mean, it's already a pretty big time commitment. Yeah, I think if you're really desperate, if you're really at the end, and you're down for bribing people, I guess, that opens up a whole other can of worms. You could bribe all kinds of people.
Now, I was thinking when I guess when you first started at the beginning of it, this going to be kind of scattered. I can see right now, but one thing that kind of popped in my mind when I first started hearing even the first couple is that they're asking women to put themselves in some precarious positions. And so
there's definitely, just to kind of frame this up a little bit, I think that there's, this got dragged out a couple weeks ago, and somebody else found it, and then we got a hold of it. But I think there was a lot of pushback from, more traditionally, I'm not traditionally feminist, but more like intersectional feminism found a lot of problems with this because, it's very much, the woman is sort of subservient to the man, and, that's kind of how you attract them. But I don't think that that's the intention at all. I think it's meant to be a little tongue in cheek, and it's meant to be kind of fun. But definitely there's some specific, and 129 suggestions about, what to do to get the husband. There's definitely some things in there that are definitely not something I would recommend anyone actually do today.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like, well, back at the beginning. So number one would be like get a dog and walk it. Okay, nothing's really wrong with that. Okay, get a dog, walk it. That's fine. But then number two, have your car break down in strategic places.
Right.
So one, you know how to break down a car.
Right.
So and two,
and how to time it.
Yeah, and how to time it, where it is in a place. I'm hoping it's in a well lit place, not in the middle of the woods, right?
Right.
So that's the first. When I first heard that, I'm like, okay, that's all right. That could be troubling, depending on where you're at. And then right after that, number three, attend night school. Like, why we got to be at night? I mean,
I guess they're assuming these are grown professional aged women and not teenaged women. So maybe that's what that is. But
yeah.
It's not a terrible suggestion. I mean, it sounds a little antiquated now, but, if you're getting educated and also potentially meeting somebody, I think, that one kind of is just like, well, any activity that you can go and meet a mixed group of people could be, you're already, if you're taking a course that somebody else likes, you've already got something in common. So that's a reasonable suggestion.
Yeah, but then the next one is join a hiking club. Are you doing this by yourself? Like,
well, to be honest with you, I don't know what a hiking club is, so I'm not really sure how that works, what the logistics would be. But I assume you sign up and meet a group of people. I was in a running club in New York, and that was sort of maybe kind of like that. You meet up with a handful of people, and I'll just tell you right now that most of those clubs are mostly women.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm just looking at another one, take several short vacations at different places rather than one long one at one place. Again, are you by yourself? Like,
yeah, I guess. I mean, that's pretty modern, right? To go off on an independent vacation.
Yeah. And then do number 10, take a bicycle trip through Europe.
Yeah, that's extensive. I mean, that's a big commitment. If you've got the means to take a bicycle trip through Europe, good for you. Well, but you should do that for you, not just to get a guy.
And mention that another, I forget what number it is, but it says make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like when all else fails, just be rich. People like that.
But
it's a good idea.
But when I read that, I thought like, okay, but this is 1958, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking 1958, and you're you saying for a woman to make a lot of money? I know a lot of times I guess the thought is that men are intimidated by someone who maybe is making more or maybe have a higher profile. So I thought that was kind of a little ahead of a time a little bit in reading that.
Yeah.
All these other different. I know another one. Well, first let me ask: of all of these, which one is like I guess is your favorite?
Favorites. Well, I don't know. It kind of changes. I think in the category of where to find him, the suggestion of looking through the census reports is pretty crazy. But also, there's a suggestion of looking through obituaries to find eligible widowers, which I also thought was pretty egregious. I can't imagine anybody actually doing that. That sounds like the beginning of like a forensic files episode.
Yep.
I would never do that. I would never suggest anybody do that. Seems predatory.
Yeah, because that's number 6 and 23, and I was reading this. I'm like, what is their obsession with widowers?
Yeah, there might be a lot of widowers at your high school reunions, which probably means that a lot of your old classmates have passed away. So that's just a kind of macabre suggestion right there.
Yeah, kind of morbid. I'm like.
Yeah. Oh, well, don't take a job in a company run largely by women. To be honest with you, it seems, anti-feminist. But if you want to meet men, it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and I think what's another one where it says about go to your reunions, and so the wild kid may have calmed down.
Right. Yeah. Or don't be friendly to ugly men. Handsome is as handsome does. Give the uggos a chance too. That's good.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's bold.
Yeah. Well, it's worded harshly, but I think that's actually pretty sage advice.
Now, kind of going back to, I guess, being in precarious positions. Number 29, like when traveling, stay at small hotels where it's easier to meet strangers.
Yeah, that's not something that I would necessarily suggest. But I will say this: that these days there's a lot more like pod shares and hostels and that kind of thing that are sort of meant for that kind of activity. I think that we're concerned now a lot that we're not really meeting people the way that we used to because everything is so digital that we don't really run into people the way that we used to. So there's a lot of loneliness, and I think that there's some companies that are trying to set up opportunities for adults to sort of organically meet each other. So I think that one maybe have come around full circle.
Yeah. Now to go, I guess a little further down, I just thought it was kind of funny for 31. Stumble when you walk into a room that he's in. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't. As a guy, I don't know why that would get me interested in. Like, I would just think he's clumsy.
Supposed to get someone to like jump up and help you. I don't know. That one's got like a high fail margin to me. I would caution you against that one. Well, yeah, if he doesn't help you, and then you fall, that's going to be unfortunate.
That's one of those things where you got to be strategic in a way, I guess. You got to make sure that they're close by to when I do stumble, someone would catch me at least. And also be prepared to just fall.
Right.
Don't just just don't think that, hey, someone's going to catch me. Be prepared. No one might not catch you. You might just have to fall down the stairs.
It's a bold choice to try to fall and assume someone's going to catch you.
Now,
number 39, have your father buy some theater tickets that have to be got rid of. Besides the grammar problems that I have with that suggestion, I think that it would be a bold move to get your father involved in your scheming as well.
I was wondering what that meant. Actually, I kind of skipped it. I'm like, buy some theater tickets. Well, I guess, we're talking about, 1958, but still, I was like, I was a little confused by that. Like, I don't even know what that means.
That one's definitely overshadowed by number 40, which was stand in a corner and cry softly. Chances are good that he'll come over and find out what's wrong. That's a good way to get a guy. Show him that you're emotionally unstable the first time that you meet.
And you also are you're telling women that how to act. Like, they need to learn how to act. So not only, you need to stand in the corner and you got to cry softly, but not too hard, but not too soft.
Don't stop. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So you got to get your acting skills into it.
man.
So
Don't let them fish for your name the next time you meet. None of this guess who stuff. All
so
right.
what is that? So that what when they put names in a bowl or something?
I don't know. I think, yeah. I think I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think it's just try to eliminate that panic of not remembering someone's name. I don't know. I
was like, I don't know what they like passing around names or something. That's why I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Now, number 46, man, that's something I can appreciate personally because I'm a bit of a wallflower.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, 46. So, if there's a wallflower among the men you know, why not cultivate him? For all you know, he may be a diamond in the rough. Hey, as a wallflower myself, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's nice. So every now and then it's like it'll be crazy, and then there'll be one that's just like, oh, that actually makes sense. I like in the next section, I'll jump ahead a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's some crazy stuff. Don't be too fussy. Use your ashtray. Don't crush out your cigarettes and your coffee cups. And then stick to your moral standards. I don't even know how those things go into a category together, but stick to your moral standards is just that's just a good piece of advice to take. Whether you put your cigarettes out in a coffee cup or an ashtray, moral standards are paramount.
That's true. But what are these moral standards after you read all this list? I mean, once you go through this list, like, where are your morals?
Lying and manipulating is well within reach of the focus of this article.
So, like, I'm like, what is your morality? That's what I was wondering. I'm like, because we're going all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, I like number 50. Practice your drinking with your women friends first. Go out and test your limits, ladies. Figure out exactly what the number of drinks you can have is before you start looking foolish.
Yeah. I could just imagine that you on a girls' night and like, I'm just practicing, making sure when I go out on my date that I don't, get too drunk.
Right. No, I mean, it's not a bad piece of advice. It really isn't. But.
Now, number 56, I was just wondering about this. Maybe you might have some insight because, if you look good in sweaters, wear one every third date. So why the third?
I have to just attribute this one to a different time. I think sweaters were like a big deal then, 1958. I'm trying to think, like, is that like Mary Tyler Moore? I don't know. Like, people really were into sweaters then. It's a different connotation now. Sweaters like something you wear to warm. But I think that they were very noticeable then. So they, if you wore a sweater every day, it maybe seemed like you were really trying. It would be like wearing like a low-cut dress, like a same styled low-cut dress. I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, if anyone comes across and, go on Google and whatever to find this list and you get to number 58, just understand that's not what it means. I'm pretty sure that's not, they don't mean get a sunburn. Pretty sure they don't mean that.
Well, we talked about this on the other podcast. It's just, I can't imagine. There's nothing sexy about a sunburn. It does make someone look like they're in pain.
Yeah.
It must mean tan.
Has to be.
But yeah, because I personally get sunburns and it's not my cutest look. Not by a long shot.
Now, I forgot which one it was, but there was two in particular that definitely would work on me. And I forgot what the first one was, but it was about basically just go ask for advice. I forgot what number that was. That one, but also number 67. If he has bought you a trinket or accessory, wear it. I can't agree with that more. If you don't like it, tell me so I can take it back and get my money back.
Right. No, that's a very solid, sound piece of advice. Quite frankly, if you don't love it, wear it anyway. I mean, that's just like a nice, gracious gesture. Don't be difficult. And I think that kind of goes into number 70. And this is some stuff we got pushback on because I agree with this kind of thing. I think that you can be polite without being overly accommodating. You don't have to be a jerk, just to prove that you're an independent woman. I think it's nice to accept a gift and be grateful for it and don't be too fussy. I think those are good pieces of advice.
I feel like 70 and 72 are the same because 72 is that don't whine, girls who whine stay on the vine. That's the same thing.
They are similar, but also it kind of contradicts the advice about crying in the corner. I think a little bit.
See, it just goes all over the place.
Yeah, it really does. There is definitely some variation from the point they're trying to make here. I mean, it wanders for sure.
Now, now number 80. I would hope that the woman will actually believe this, because number 80. Talk to your father about business and agree that taxes are too high. I would just hope you would believe that taxes are too high, not just say it just so you could have a conversation with the father.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that if you wanted to read a lot into this one, I think, the idea of coming in, if you are political and you don't agree with, their parents, then maybe you don't need to flex all of your political opinions right out the gate. It's nice that you're educated. It's nice that you know what's going on, but you don't want to be contentious right off the bat. And so I think, I've read this one several times, and, certainly I think the taxes are too high, but if that's not part of your political spectrum, then that's okay. But maybe just don't fight about politics with your, date's parents until you're, way down the line.
Yeah, and I noticed one other thing. There's an industry in particular that they're focused on, and it's fishing. Because there's a number of rules in here talk about scaling the fish.
Yeah.
So fishing was big back in 1958, apparently. Because
apparently.
Yeah, because if you didn't know anything about fishing, I mean, it's no good back then.
Hunting and fishing. Get a hunting license.
Yeah.
Scale and clean fish. Yeah. First of all, I've never lived outside of cities really, so I don't know people like this. But I'm sure that if I lived in the country, maybe it would be helpful. However, I can't imagine scaling a fish. That's really gross.
I haven't scaled a fish.
Pulling the guts out and stuff?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I haven't done that before. I've gone fishing. I haven't done the full scaling part.
I don't even want to do that, to be honest with you. I'm at this point in my life, I'm just, I'm not. I like being outside as long as there's not too many bugs and it's, nice and that's fine. But like pulling fish out of the water and shooting animals, that's not going to be part of my life. Not ever.
Now, so this one in particular that when I read this, obviously they must be part of this sorority, because they mentioned one in particular in 97. They said, hide your Phi Beta Kappa key if you own one. Later on, Junior can play with it. Now, I don't actually understand what that meant, but I'm like, they
don't
must
either.
Oh, okay.
I had a listener tell me that Phi Beta Kappa was like the sorority that smart girls were part of historically. So
in Yale.
Like the more
in Yale, I'm guessing.
I assume it's, well, I don't know if Yale was accepting female students at that time, but I guess yes, because they said go there. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that, most sororities have chapters in, many, many colleges. So I guess maybe that's what it meant. And if that's true, then it's kind of like a more weighted suggestion, because, don't let anyone know that you're a smart person is, that's dubious advice at best. I don't understand the second part of it, where it says later on Junior can play with it.
Yeah. I don't know anything about sororities, so I don't.
Maybe the point is, like, if you hide your smartness, then you'll have kids, and then it'll all be worth it. I don't know.
Well, see, I was thinking about physical keys, so I was like,
yeah, maybe it's just like a big key that a kid would like. I really don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, I was really confused by that. I'm like, okay, I'm guessing it's a sorority. I guess that much, but other than that, I was like totally lost on that one. Yeah. So we've gone through pretty much most of it. Well, no, we haven't. But if you want to, if you want to read this list, it's out there. Just basically just Google McCall's 129 ways.
Yep.
Yep. And then also, again, if definitely I would recommend to listen to the Federalist podcast on this. It wasn't. They talked about more than what we did, and we talked about things that maybe y'all didn't talk about as well. But I do want to ask, being a senior contributor at the Federalist, your expertise is on pop culture.
Right.
So, given that we're here at the end of the year, do you have anything as far as, I guess, kind of like a year in review as far as what's been going on with the connection of pop culture and politics?
Sure. I mean, I think what's happened in the days leading up to this recording is that Kevin Hart was asked to host the Oscars, and then he stepped away after some tweets of jokes that he'd written 10 years ago that seemed somewhat homophobic came back out, and the Academy demanded that he apologize for them, which he'd already done many times, and he kind of was just over it. You could tell he was just gassed by the situation, and then ultimately said that he was just going to walk away from the hosting job because it just wasn't worth it. And then he did actually issue another apology to the LGBTQ community, which is fine. But the problem is that because he relented, they won. The outrage mob, said, we want you to apologize for these, even though they're jokes. And there's tons of stuff that gets excused for being jokes. But now we decided that this is offensive, even though, really, the tweets aren't even actually offensive. You can make almost anything offensive if you want it to be. And so that's kind of the danger in that. So now, who actually is, what comedian has never said anything that's going to make them mad? Because now everybody's whole history is under scrutiny. And I think that, coming up to the end of the year, I think that that's a really poignant point. And we see that a lot with many different things. But in particular, comedy is under fire. This whole idea of you can't say that. And as someone who writes about comedy a lot, I spend a lot of time in comedy clubs. And the attitude within the clubs is so completely different than what you would think based on what you read and what you see. Comics are there to make like the most free jokes that they want to make. And it's hard for them to be in an environment where that's scary. Because now who knows who's recording when they walk into a club and they want to make jokes about they're trying out new material. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And they'll figure that out. That's part of the process. But if they're in a club, which is supposed to be their safe haven, now they don't feel as secure, and that's not right. It's an infringement on free speech, honestly, at the end of the day.
Yeah, everything with the whole Me Too movement, especially this past year, has where people are just finding old tweets or any social media posts and bringing it back up, and there's a substantial lack of grace when it comes to any of these situations that's been going on, whether it is with Kevin Hart or take your pick the past year or so. There's so many people that have just been drugged through the mud over just craziness. Now, I know one thing off the top of my head, just to think of, especially the intersection of pop culture and politics, would be what happened with Kim Kardashian and President Trump. Like, I kind of felt like that was kind of a pretty big story for this past year as far as what just that happening in particular. And
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that was an example of. I mean, if you're talking about the prison reform stuff that she's done, I think it's an example of actually politics and pop culture combining for good. I think that some people really benefited from her platform in this particular case. There's some long-term effects that I think are going to ultimately be positive as well. So that's good. And then look at her husband and sort of the sideshow he became in the latter half of this year, and ultimately just to kind of withdraw everything and end up switching parties and donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to progressive Democrats. So who knows?
It was the roller coaster that I knew it was going to be.
Well, exactly, and it was just everybody's like on Team Kanye, on the right, and it was like, this is not advised.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's worth looking into, but everybody don't get too excited about Kanye. I think he's, I can't judge his mental stability because I don't know the man, and I'm not a mental health professional, but something seemed disconnected there for sure. So, and it turned out that I was right.
Well, I mean, honestly, even whether it's Kanye or any celebrity, a lot of times I bring up on the podcast is where just not get all wrapped up in someone making any sort of slight conservative or Republican message. That person can very well totally recant everything in another tweet the next day.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I think that it's always a risk to put all your eggs in a basket, based on one thought or one inkling that somebody might have. I mean, I think especially conservatives get so excited when celebrities might be on their side that they go overboard. But I mean, we don't. I don't think that it's necessary to I don't know. Celebrities get worshipped too much anyway, but. It's a fickle culture.
And to me, it comes across as desperate to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just desperate to get that, that attention from the celebrity culture,
Right.
and every time something like this happens and everyone all of a sudden just start fawning over whoever that celebrity is, and then next thing you know, a couple of days, an hour later, they turn around and say, "Well, I apologize. I didn't mean to say what I meant." And then they're saying, "Oh, why do you get all excited in the first place?"
A good example of that was Mark Duplass, who tweeted that he's very liberal, but he tweeted that this is a couple months ago, that Ben Shapiro is somebody that he recommended people follow if they want some intelligent insight from the other side of the aisle. And he was immediately just torn apart by his own followers because everyone was like, "Oh no, Shapiro is a homophobe, he's a racist. Like, how could you ever say that? We respected you, and now everything we say is ridiculous." And so instead of sticking by his guns, he immediately was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I should have looked further into it. You're right."
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just, to me, no one, whether it's Mark Duplass or anybody, should feel afraid to say what they believe. I think that he had a really good point.
Yeah.
And they might not agree with Shapiro, but, to roast Duplass for even suggesting that they follow somebody who, doesn't agree with them, that's a really good metric of where we are right now with outrage politics. And it's disappointing and it's disheartening. And actually, the most recent thing that came up, the young man who just won the Heisman Trophy, Kyle Murray, he, totally on a complete upward trajectory for his entire young career. He was like a number one draft pick for the MLB in addition to being a football star. And as soon as he won that trophy, people dug up tweets that he had done in 2012 or something. He was like 15 years old in high school. And it was just him joking around with friends, and he used the word queer. And it wasn't even to be disparaging about gay people. It was just, the way that he and his friends were talking to each other. And now, is that, does it sound right? I mean, no, I guess, but it's just a word. I mean, language is not a weapon, and he wasn't using it against anybody. And that's beside the point. The kid was 15 years old, and now everyone thinks it's their right to find these tweets and destroy his career and have this trophy that he's worked his entire life on taken away from him. And it's just the wrong way to think.
Yeah, I'm surprised whenever one of these stories come up, whether it's Kevin Hart or anyone, especially a celebrity. I'm surprised, especially someone as a celebrity like Kevin Hart, that they haven't went back into their social media and just deleted everything and just start fresh somewhere.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that too. And I find tweets, now the tweet search engine is a dangerous thing because you can plug in any sort of keyword and you can look through. I mean, Twitter's been around for 12 years. You can look through 12 years worth of tweets. And I guarantee you almost everybody said something they wish they hadn't. And who knows? I mean, I guess if I were a more public person, maybe I would go through and delete my tweets. But to be honest with you, I actually just did that. I went through and deleted a couple of things. But, I don't know. I would think that would be the first thing that you would want to do.
I know ever since I started doing anything on social media, I've always had the thought that basically to think twice as far as what you're going to post. I mean, honestly, that's probably why I don't post nearly as much because I'm overthinking a lot of times when I post, and I've always been that way. Like the first post on Facebook back like 10 years ago, I was that way. Mm-hmm. So I'm very I'm very critical as far as what I'm going to write for anything, and also have the thought that nothing is private when you put it on the internet. No matter how private you think it is, that's the mindset I have, at least, that it's not private. I don't care if it's in the Messenger or Snapchat. I don't care what it is. Have the mindset that this is not private and it can get out.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
well, I appreciate you coming on, and so let everyone know as far as where to reach you on social media.
Yeah, you can follow me right now just on Twitter at Ellie_Bufkin. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was fun.